A little background on my interest in Berserk. I know this is mostly a gaming channel, but this chapter just dropped today, and I had to make a discussion video about it. And was it worth the 23 years? I'm going to say it here and now. Not at all. Because when you wait that long, and you have so much hype connected to something, I feel like it can never live up to it. But was it a good chapter? Yes, I do think it was a great chapter. I think there was some great art. I thought there were some much needed character interactions. And I think it gave us enough to really think about what direction the series is going, because I'm gonna look through I've read it several times over, and what interests me the most is I kind of figured the ending of the chapter with Casca, but it was Skull Knight at the end, and we're gonna break down the chapter a little bit, see what I really liked, what really jumped out to me, and we're gonna do a little surface level analysis, and we're gonna do a little bit more deep dive, a little bit more connecting it to the theories that people have been really making over the past 23 years. So let's just get down into it. We start the chapter with a little bit of a skip. We remember like Casca confronts Guts in the dress the Queen of the Fairies crafts for her after she regains her memory. And right now, the Queen of the Fairies is simply grooming Casca. She's very much like, I'm so powerful, I really don't give a shit. And I'm able to just take leisure in doing simple things like grooming a woman. So you see, she gives her a sword, some much needed armor, and we get a nice little reveal with Casca and her new armor. Looked very similar to what she used to wear in the Golden Age arc, but it's more in the style of the elf armor. So really nice, like I said, really great art. So we get the big reveal. It's very much similar to Golden Age Casca. Here's her snark, don't stare, you're making it awkward. And here she's having her first real, what we see her first real interactions with the party. And, Serpico, no, it's Shiro right here is just talking to her about, past events, about her, being a child and, being pretty much out of it for the whole journey. And here she is. What I really like with these interactions is I like that she acknowledges Serpico, not Serpico, Ichiro. I always get them mixed up. But the one thing I really love from the chapter is this. This needed to happen. Casca telling Farnese, or however you want to pronounce it, thank you. And this is a really big arc for Farnese, just in virtue of how much she's taken an active role in Casca's caretaking. And by virtue of, if Guts is doing so much for this woman right here, and Farnese really respects Guts. This interaction right here, her calling her the person that comforted her and brought her safety. And in some ways, she's thrown off by a loop, because she says, no, you helped me grow by being the catalyst of my growth. So this is a very great scene between Farnese and Casca. Next we have Sherpico's commenting on how she uses a sword, because most of the female party members in Guts' party are mostly magic users. Farnese and Shirka use magic, so it's uncommon to see a female soldier. So now we're gonna get into, and this is what I like, what Miura is doing right here. Also, I love the art on the Vikings; they're kick ass. And but back to my original thought, he's gonna illustrate that Casca is still a formidable fighter. And here, for any of you history buffs, the Vikings were savages. These men used to go up rivers with their boats that could also go into the ocean, and would kick the shit out of the English and pillage the hell out of them. So this is Miura taking some real life influences. They never had horns on their helmets though, but some real life influences to illustrate that Casca still got it. So here you go. The queen is explaining that they're really just hay. They're not people. So hey, have at it. So here we go. We see Casca getting ready, coming in, block, a parry, into a strike to the head. And, she's back into the flow of things. She is still a formidable fighter. These guys are still these aren't like pushovers. These are legendary warriors, and that she still keeps up with a normal human on human interaction or combat. So everyone's amazed. Like, they're like, I've never seen this. And like I said, I love the art. I love the art. I love the Viking influence on the armor. And but the point of this whole interaction right here is to illustrate that Casca is so formidable. And this is going to play into why I like this chapter so much. So everyone is amazed by her skill, and now Serpico obviously wants to square up with her. And here, we'll go through the fight with them. But here's what I really am curious about is I'm curious about the interaction between Casca and Guts when she first regained her memory. Did this trigger almost, because you see the dwelling, like what you see in the back of her mind remembering the eclipse in the last chapter. Like, I'm not talking about the Griffiths chapter. I'm talking about right at the end when they complete her reassembly in her mind, that she sees him in the dress, and she still sees like the imagery. So I'm curious, did Guts back off before, or did she have something happen? So you'll see. So Guts is saying that, hey, he's happy that she's fine now, and the fact that this brings some hope to me that, hey, Casca can live a normal life in Elfland. However, Berserk is just not that show. This isn't like a happy ending. This is almost a bittersweet, and you're going to see why. And let's face it, I recommend everyone to read this before even watching this video. So we have the queen, the deep wounds. The queen is saying that she has deep wounds, and she's going to have to work through them. But she's able to work through them because of Farnese and Shirka. So here, Farnese is saying to her that to go to Guts. And she's the one who put away the little Casca inside the mannequin. And this right here, this is where I start taking a little issue. And you'll see here that she speaks some much needed words to Guts, telling him about his own personal growth as a character. And I think this is very good. I think this is in the perfect direction for it. But here, and we'll roll through. The importance of him gaining friends. Everyone who has Guts has had a friend or a connection with has either three things. Either one, betrayed them, like Gambino and Griffith. Two, died, like Judo, Pippin. I wouldn't say Corcus, because Corcus was kind of an asshole, but still his comrades, leaving him with tremendous grief, or been mentally scarred because of him. Let's face it, the eclipse would have never happened in Guts' mind if he didn't leave the Hawks. So it's very hard for Guts to open up, and she's going to go here that the fact that he's opened up and gained friends, and not just that he's made friends, how he's taken on a student. That's a very big deal. Because Guts has never trained anyone. Guts has always been very stoic and very to himself. But when you take on a student, you reveal part of your... When you teach someone how to fight, it's a very personal relationship that you share with that person. They're trusting on you for guidance. And to put yourself into that situation when you've been through as much stuff as Guts, very big deal. Ichiro, very important to Guts' character as a whole. And I love how there's a little peasant boy just fighting legendary warriors and just saucing them right now. And when she comments on how he fights them to Judah. Actually, that's where I think Guts actually taught him, because he realized that he's not like Guts. He needs to take on a fighting style that's good for him and his build. Because he can't go like Gambino and tell Ichiro to, hey, use a big-ass sword like me. No, he trained him like judo. And judo actually taught Guts how to throw throwing knives. He taught him, and he's just which was part of his kit as the black swordsman, which is he's taken lessons from him and he's passing it down. But as soon as the mention of judo, someone who shared a very personal relationship with Casca, she starts regressing or remembering. Yeah, the apostle that held her down, and Judo dying, and then the memories start swarming in because it just takes that little trigger. This is a very powerful scene. But I wish before this happened we got a little bit more closure. It's great that we discuss how much Guts has changed, how Casca realizes that he's changed, that she doesn't view him as scary, but just the trauma will not allow it. And it's very bittersweet, and I just wish that Guts got a word into saying, I'm sorry that I cut loose and I broke. And that's something that's been eating at Guts for years. It's been eating, well, I would say years, but eating at, well, yeah, years, because he went away for 2 years when he was being the Black Swordsman. And then when he came back to Goto's place, Casca was gone. But just a little closure, just even a word from Guts would have been great. So she collapsed, she's recollecting. So when she sees him, Guts obviously seeing that she's collapsed, she wants to see what's wrong. He loves this woman. He comes out, and this is what Casca sees. A bunch of apostles and Guts. Very powerful scene, I will admit. However, and you just see the look of anguish. What hope that was with Guts, what hope you did see, completely washed away. And his anguish, it was good. And him just bearing down that he will not have a normal life with Casca. So he chooses to walk. He knows how she can live a normal life now, but without him. And here, my favorite part of the whole damn chapter. Skull Knight. I think this is such a great example of the hero's journey. But instead of it being a hunky-dory ending, Guts is just back where he was after the eclipse. And what happens? Skull Knight comes. And I've theorized, and I agree with a lot of people, that Skull Knight has a vested interest in Guts because Skull Knight is essentially a repeat of Guts. Skull Knight, to me, who has a vested interest in the defeating of the God Hand, and you see this, and I think he has a very interpersonal relationship with the God Hand Void, because as soon in the eclipse, when Skull Knight comes into the Astorial plane, or just the dimension that the God Hand reside in, he swings on Void. He blocks it. Void is able to control space and time. He blocks the sword. Skull Knight, knowing it, hits it with his shield. He swings on Void first. He avoids all the other God Hand. Swings on him, just like Guts did after, I believe, Redemption? No, not Redemption, but his first encounter with Griffith after becoming the Black Swordsman. Swings on him. But just because Skull Knight's been doing this for years, so he's able to accumulate the power to stand toe-to-toe. But Skull Knight is nowhere close to defeating the God Hand. Nowhere close. And I think Skull Knight appears to Guts because he knows this is a turning point in the series of Berserk. Will Guts, and what I mean by Skull Knight is Guts, Skull Knight shares a lot of similarities with Guts. He has an interclose relationship with Flora, Shirka's teacher, and it's theorized that Skull Knight at once wore the Berserker armor. And that's why he gave it to Guts, because for him to go down the path that he's going, he needed that strength. And for him to entrust it to Flora, because let's face it, Skull Knight is so... We don't see Skull Knight have a relationship with anyone except for Flora. We know nothing about the guy. We theorize that he's the old king, but for him to have respect for Flora, similar to Guts, Guts only really respects people within his party, which he holds in high regard. Shirka, Farnese, and Casca, really. Sherpiko kind of has that whole, you got balls, I respect that, but not actual, I really respect you as a friend, as a mentor, as someone who helps me develop as a person. And he hasn't really had that with Sherpiko. So I think Skull Knight has a vested interest in seeing, hey, is Guts gonna succeed where I failed? Because I think Skull Knight lost his way and he gave up his humanity. What the one thing that made him human, and I think in some ways Casca is the one thing that makes Guts human. So will Guts regress and become the Black Swordsman, or maybe even worse, maybe almost like Skull Knight, no humanity? Or will Guts realize how far he's come as a character and said, you know what? Screw revenge. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to protect my friends at all costs, and I'm going to make sure Casca gets better. And that's really the exciting part about this chapter. Is that is he going to go regress, or is he going to advance? And I think that's why Skull Knight is so interested in Guts. How he's going to react to this this development. Casca can never really be with Guts. So where is he going to go? Is he going to go down the path of revenge and become like him? Or is he going to do something better? Because I think Skull Knight realizes what he's doing doesn't work. Skull Knight is able to hold his own against the God Hand, but that's only through sacrificing his humanity. So I think Skull Knight says, I've been doing it wrong the whole time. Maybe this guy will get it. Maybe this guy will learn to let go of his rage and he'll live for his friends. And I hope Guts does. I hope the only thing that calls Guts to fight again is an immediate danger to his friends. If Griffith comes to Elfland for whatever reason, Guts says, I'm not fighting you to get revenge. I'm fighting you to protect my friends so my friends can be safe. And that's where I hope Berserk goes. I don't want Guts to regress. We've already been down the Black Swordsman arc. We've already seen it. And that's why I think this mention by Casca of how much Guts has changed is such an important part about this chapter. So it's really interesting. This is going to be a very big turning point in Berserk, and I really hope, and I think it will be interesting to see where it goes, regardless of if Guts decides to stay on Elfland or pursue Griffith, because that's all he knows. So, was it worth 23 years? Eclipse came out in Japan September 27th, 1996. So it's been about a good, what's it called? It's been a good 23 years. Was this chapter worth it? No, because there's so much hype that it was never going to satisfy anyone. But does it set up Berserk to be better than it was? I think so. So I want you guys to comment, say, hey, really loved the chapter, and the chapter was I'm really curious to see how the rest of the fan base will react to this chapter. Because like I said, this is a big turning point for Berserk as a whole. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think that's the most important part. It doesn't matter if they lived up to the hype. Where does it take the overall story? Comment below.